Despite bad sales numbers and rumors saying otherwise, Microsoft has confirmed that we will be getting another Xbox game console. I believe that they're going to be putting out 2 models yet again, and one of them might be a handheld this time. Today we'll be getting into the specs, pricing, and strategy around the next generation of Xbox. I'm Derek, and welcome to Position Offset. And so now all the rumors so far say it's going to be 2026 when we see this next Xbox. That'll be 2 years earlier than we would have expected it. That's about the time we're expecting the PS6. But it looks like Microsoft's going to be getting started a little bit early on the next generation. Not much is officially known about this next generation outside of Sarah Bond from Microsoft saying we are working on the next generation and it's going to be our biggest jump ever. So that gives us a little bit of an insight, but that's about all we have officially from Microsoft. But the rumor mill says, well, a bunch of different things. It says that we're going to get a handheld system. And then there are people saying that there's only going to be one console. But I don't believe that's true. I think Microsoft can continue with their dual strategy just like we've seen. And we're going to see both. The S is going to go away or change into a handheld system, possibly called the Series M for mobile instead of Series S. But that also would mean that Microsoft is introducing 3 tiers for developers to have to target. They already had a whole bunch of craziness while doing back compat with Xbox One and the Series consoles. This time around, that would mean they have 5 targets. 5 targets to go after. So you got, Series S, Series X. Now you've got this new Series M, as I'm calling it, in portable mode, Series M in docked mode with a little bit more juice. And then you've got, your Series X equivalent that's going to be super powerful, apparently. And maybe that's what Microsoft's going to do. I'm not really sure. Maybe there is no boost when you plug in this mobile system. Maybe it's the same whether it's docked or not. I don't know. That is questionable because the whole idea here is Microsoft's not been very successful in the console market for the past 2 generations now. And so they can't follow Sony anymore. That's not working for them. So why not go after Nintendo's route? Nintendo's like, hey, y'all compete over there. We're going to do our own thing. Doesn't mean that Microsoft and Sony can't come after them. There's rumors that Sony is also working on another handheld. But I don't think that's coming anywhere near as soon as what we're going to see from Microsoft. And now I do believe that we're going to get a Series X equivalent that's going to be much more powerful. It is going to probably be, I don't even know a number for you, 4, 5? Just much, much more powerful, like 4 or 5 times as powerful, possibly even. I could see them jumping up a few tiers to a super premium system. And so now we've got an even bigger disparity than we've ever had before with this portable console and this uber powerful console like we've never seen before. It's kind of crazy, but Microsoft needs something a little crazy right now because the usual paths have not been working for them. And so I really do think we're going to see multiple consoles from Microsoft. But they'll probably also have this hybrid console thing that there's also rumors about. Some people say these consoles are going to be PCs that just happen to also be Xboxes. I don't think that's quite true, but I think there might be yet another device that the Surface team is working with them on that's going to be that all-in-one device. But I think they're going to have a base unit that just plays games, and maybe there's a more expensive unit that's a PC, can play all your PC games, and also has a Series S mode. I think that's more likely to be Microsoft's strategy here. I think just like you get, different launchers and things in the PC world, there's going to be an Xbox launcher, if you will, an Xbox shell that your games kind of live within and connects into things. And that's how they're going to control their platform, even though they're kind of giving up on console a little bit. I'll get into what I mean by that when we talk about the X in a bit, but first let's talk more about the details of the handheld. And so the rumors say there's going to be a handheld from Microsoft, right? And I think that could be a great product if it's not its own thing. I think the smartest thing for Microsoft to do is make it fully backwards compatible with the prior systems. I think the Series S could be a feature exclusively for when it's in docked mode, if they do the docked versus handheld mode in terms of how much power you get. They could make it just be the same regardless, and the handheld mode is the same even when it's plugged in. But I don't think that's true. I think they're going to have more juice coming out of that thing, because Microsoft was very traditional in the way they thought about their consoles last generation. They had everything at a very set, specific speed that never changed. As well, Sony introduced the concept of, hey, we're going to take this boost stuff that AMD has and we're going to start using it in the consoles, and it's worked out fine. So I think Microsoft's going to follow suit. I think they're going to get that from AMD, and you're going to have variable clock speeds this time around. But some people like to say that maybe they'll go with ARM. I don't think that's likely. I think Microsoft's been fighting with ARM compatibility on Windows for like over a decade, and they still haven't figured that out. So I really don't see them getting ARM working in the Xbox space. I think it's going to stay x86. And so now what kind of specs is it going to have, right? Well, if we go with the idea that it's going to be something close to the Series S, it's probably going to have 8 cores just like the Series S does. It'll probably be 16 gigs of RAM like the Series X is. But I think games by that point, in 2 years from now, it's going to be necessary. The 10 gigs on the Series S is already causing problems. So I think they'll go up to 16, maybe even 20 if they want to include an extra 4 cheaper, slower RAM just for the operating system. But it'll probably just be 16 in the handheld, I would imagine, and 8 cores. Clock speeds, I don't think they're going to go much higher than they've been. In fact, they're going to be lower when it's in handheld mode. That's why I think, it's very possible that you can play Xbox One games in back compat in handheld mode, and then Series S games when you are in docked mode. But, that could also be confusing for people that it works in one situation but not the other. This thing is not going to have a disk drive, obviously. It's going to have internal storage. It could potentially have an external SD card expansion or something, just like the Switch did. But they would have to have some very fast cards, probably UFS 3.2, maybe even UFS 4 is out by then. But really, really fast SD cards, because it's going to need to be as fast as the Series S is or faster, right? The other thing about it is this thing needs to be cheap. The Series S is the cheaper console. It's the one that gets people in the door. It sells, 3, 4, 5 times as many as the Series X, and that just shows that people don't care about graphics as much as some of us. Most people just want, whatever's cheapest, and Microsoft knows that, so they're going to try to keep the cost down on this handheld system. It's going to probably just have a regular LCD screen. It would be awesome if it had OLED, but probably just LCD. Maybe we'll get 120 hertz. Maybe we'll get VRR. HDR would be awesome. But there's really no way to know until we get more details. Not a lot on the actual form factor of the device is known yet. It'll probably look something akin to a Switch or a Steam Deck, screen with some buttons around it. But we'll have to wait until Microsoft shows us what it looks like, I guess. Now, in terms of battery life, I would expect probably somewhere around 3 to 5 hours. That seems to be the going rate for a lot of handheld systems these days. And for the graphics card, I think it's going to probably be a mix of RDNA 4 and 5. I think they'll backport a couple features from 5. Maybe they'll call it 4.5, like they have the 3.5 now. But it will be, like I said, roughly on par in raw performance, the Series S, but it's going to be a newer architecture, so it's going to be a little bit faster. It's going to have some new features and things that aren't available in the RDNA 2 technology of the Series S. And the ray tracing should be phenomenally better. Supposedly RDNA 4 is going to bring this big boost to ray tracing. And I have to assume AMD is going to continue to focus on that as they go forward now that it's clear that ray tracing is becoming the norm in games. So now I think there might also be a secondary product that is a Surface device, and it plays Windows and Windows games, and then you can put it into a Series S mode where you get like an overlay or something that comes down and it sets the hardware into a compatibility mode and basically sets it all up so that when the game runs, it doesn't know that it's not running on a native Series S. But the system's able to run the game just fine. And I think they'll continue to push that into multiple devices, not just their own. They'll probably release something for regular PCs where you can boot into like an Xbox mode, shuts off maybe background services and things you don't need for a game. But I don't know. The rumors say that Microsoft is considering something like this, but I think that the next console is going to be fairly traditional in this respect. I don't see you installing games through alternative app stores and it having some kind of solution for the mouse issue of using Windows on a handheld. But, there's still a lot we don't know about this thing. So that's my prediction so far. Let's move on to the Series X. And so now I'm calling this one the X, just going off of the fact that once upon a time, Phil Spencer said he wanted the Xbox to be more like a cell phone, and they would be doing more regular releases, right? So I've got it in my head that the Series brand is going to stick around beyond the current generation, but maybe not. Maybe they just call it Series X 2026, or maybe it's got some new crazy name. We'll just have to see on that, but for now I'm going to call it the X. And this console is going to be most likely powered by RDNA 5, and if the rumors are true, that's going to be the generation where AMD introduces multiple chiplets on the die. So they're going to be able to have many, many more cores, many more compute units than they were able to have on a GPU before. This is going to unlock insane stuff in the PC world, but it's going to be big gains on console too. So we should see just a huge jump in raw performance on the Series X using this new architecture. Now, I said that the mobile was going to have a hybrid of 4 and 5, right? I don't think the mobile one will be a multi-chip design. Maybe the memory controller is separate, just like in RDNA 3, but it will have a single chiplet for the compute units. As well, the X will have multiple compute units, and that's part of where the disparity starts. There's going to be a huge disparity. Now, I'm getting a little crazy. This is my own personal theory here. I don't think I've heard anyone else saying it, but the Series X didn't have enough oomph in it to go against the PS5. It should have, on paper, been a faster console, but a lot of games, because they're better optimized on PlayStation, actually play better on the PS5, even though it's supposedly technically less powerful hardware. Microsoft is going to want to overcome this. They want to say we have the most powerful hardware, and that's where this new plan comes in. Instead of going for that pro grade, I guess, like they were targeting, jump even higher than we've ever seen in a game console. The PC has tiers much further up than we've been seeing in consoles, so Microsoft could jump into that. They could basically pull a 7900 XTX, or this is RDNA 5, so what's that, 9900? I don't know that it's going to be 9900. But, equivalent in raster probably to the 7900, if not more so. This next system should be capable of ray tracing probably 5-10 times. I'm going to say probably 10 times the performance of the Xbox Series X in the next system in terms of ray tracing. Because I think this one, they're going to be targeting some path tracing. I don't think it's going to be the norm. I don't think every game is going to be path traced. Still a fairly new technology, but it's going to be possible on this hardware, and that's how they're going to differentiate themselves from the PS5 Pro. And then 2 years later, when the PS6 comes out, they're going to have to compete with it. They're going to have to continue competing with it. They're going to have hardware that's going to be as powerful as that's going to be, right? So Microsoft needs to jump ahead even further. Now that means this thing's going to be really expensive. And so that's where the other part of my theory comes into play. I think Microsoft doesn't really want to sell a lot of these. They want to have this around for bragging rights. But also, this is the unit they could put into their servers for xCloud. So even though you've got this little mobile system, you can stream this quality to your system if you have a fast enough connection through the xCloud service or through your Fire Stick or what. You don't need an Xbox anymore, right? But Xbox is still a platform. Developers still need a platform to target. But, that needs to continue to grow even if people don't have consoles in their home. The platform needs to continue to evolve, right? So why not just go ahead and make a huge jump up a few tiers of graphics card and make just an absolute gaming beast like we've never seen in a console before, make it crazy expensive, and then don't sell a lot of them. Sell mostly the Series M, and then these are around for high quality streams. These are the versions you show off in your trailers. It's not very honest, but it's the kind of thing a company like Microsoft would definitely do. And so now, back to that disparity concept, I think the processors could even be different in here. I think, I was saying a minute ago, we could still see 8 cores in the mobile unit, just like the Series S and the Series X have today. But this new Series X equivalent, it could have 12 cores in it. You might actually get 4 extra cores on your game when it runs in this performance profile, because having the systems so closely matched up last time didn't really do much for them. Like the Series S has a very low power GPU comparatively, and it's got 10 gigs of RAM instead of 16, but otherwise, it's identical. It's the same system. The CPU is pretty much exactly the same, off by like 100 megahertz or so, but it's basically the same system. They were trying to make them the same system because they thought that was going to make it easier for people to make games for it. But that didn't play out. So why would they care about that this next go round? It's time for Microsoft to try new, different things. It's time for them to mix it up. Obviously, all throughout the news, that's all they've been doing lately, and they're going to do the same thing with their hardware. So now RAM, probably about 32 gigs. Probably a crap ton of RAM for a console. It's not a lot for a PC. We will probably see GPUs with 32 gigs by that point in time. But the console system is a little bit different because they have unified RAM. And once again, they could include maybe an extra 4 gigs of SD RAM that's just used by the OS and the apps and background services, right? Like reserve that 32 gigs exclusively for games, and then the OS uses this other pool that's cheaper. We just can slap that in. It's been done in a few consoles already, but I don't know if Microsoft will want to spend the extra cash for that little extra bit of RAM. They might cheap out and just do 32 gigs. Then again, if they're putting crazy fast GPUs and CPUs in this thing, maybe they'll go crazy with the RAM too. Maybe we'll see something like 40 gigs. Who knows? But I think it's going to be a considerably larger amount than we currently have in consoles. And now they've released a all-digital edition of the Series X, but they also have one with the disc. If you get the 2 terabyte, the really premium version, it still has a disc drive. So I'm going to use that and just a lot of hope and say that maybe they'll still have a disc drive in the premium X-grade next generation Xbox. But it could be they just don't have anything. It could be like, hey, we're doing Game Pass now. We don't care about selling you physical games. If you live somewhere that doesn't have a fast enough interconnection, we're just not going to consider you for a customer anymore. But that seems like a dumb idea. So maybe they'll have an add-on drive, kind of like the PlayStation has now, where you can kind of pop in this add-on if you just got a digital and you want to upgrade later. That could be it. They did have an add-on HD DVD drive for the 360 back in the day, but that didn't really work out so well. And so if they do make it an add-on and it's not something that's like included in the box in most of the launch systems, then it will probably be a feature that just barely exists and is usually running into problems because 99% of the time they're focused on the digital version. And even if you're not buying physical games, just to have that feature taken away from you, they keep saying it's coming, and I don't think we're there yet, but we're getting very close to a period where we might see those physical games go away. And now the one other feature I haven't mentioned that it's going to have is new machine learning abilities, new AI acceleration on chip, which the PS5 Pro is allegedly going to have. So, of course, Microsoft's going to want that too. And they're pushing AI super hard. They are one of the biggest investors in OpenAI, the people that make ChatGPT. So Microsoft's going to push AI really hard on this system, of course. They just released a new system called Auto SR that is basically their upscaling solution for DirectX. Presumably, they're going to take that technology and bring it to the next Xbox as well, as the purpose of the Xbox has always been just simply to showcase the DirectX platform. Microsoft really cares about their PC market first and foremost, always. Sorry, guys. That's how it's always been. But the Xbox brand is important to them, too. They've spent 22, 23 years? It's been a while. And companies that have put in billions of dollars, like I'm sure Microsoft has at this point, they are going to want to see a return on that investment. So they're going to keep milking Xbox for everything they can. Hopefully that is good things. Hopefully the Xbox leadership wins out and the hardcore upper executives at Microsoft don't get their way and just keep messing with the service. But the politics of Microsoft, they'll probably matter more for whenever we're getting ready for the next generation after this one. And so, yeah, that's kind of the thought. They make them crazy powerful, like ridiculously powerful, where no one would believe you. You probably think I'm full of crap right now, too. But they could do it. It's not impossible. And they could put these in their xCloud servers and have just amazing graphics like we've never seen before coming through their services. That's what they want to be known for. They want to be the best. They're not trying to fail like they keep doing, right? And so Microsoft is going to make this push. They're going to bring out this mobile system. They're going to have this beastly system. They're going to, whatever you want. You want something cheap. You don't care about graphics? Here you go. You want something super powerful? Here you go. We've got you covered here at Microsoft. That is going to be their strategy. And then, of course, you can play all your Xbox games on your PC too, because that's where we really want you, on Windows, the Microsoft bread and butter. But if my crazy guess is right, this could be really, really cool. We could see some insane stuff when this gets revealed. But I don't think we're going to see it probably till next year. I think we will see this revealed as early as this December, but most likely sometime around the summer of next year. Maybe even later than that, because it's not coming out till 2026, remember. But then again, that's assuming the rumors are true. It's also possible they don't release both these consoles at the same time. Maybe we get the handheld next year in 2025, and then we get the new Series X equivalent in 2026. But I think they'll release them at the same time again. I feel like there were problems with that concept they went with this time, but there were also some things that worked out pretty well for them in the end. Neither one of the systems are selling very well, but the Series S was selling pretty well for a minute there. And honestly, this fall, with the new games that are coming out, like Indiana Jones, they will probably have a little bit of a resurgence come up in the current generation. And so, yeah, I would say by fall of 2026, we should have both consoles. Maybe we get one a year earlier. Maybe it comes out in the summer. Maybe I'm wrong and it is that PC hybrid, so that it can be a little bit out of the norm for their game schedule of things. But I really think they'll probably follow similar to the last plan and launch them around the same time. And now here's the big one, price, right? I think about $350 to $400 is what we're looking at for that mobile system. That is roughly the price of the Switch and the Steam Deck, probably around about the price point of the Switch 2. I really don't see them going much more above $400, maybe $450 at the most. But if this is their entry-level system, they know that, and they're going to want to keep the price down as low as possible. They might even try to get it down to like $300 and just eat some of the cost through subsidization. But when it comes to the X, well, I've put some pretty grandiose plans into that thing, and it's going to have a pretty large price to match. I would wager, if I'm right, that a system like that would cost somewhere between $800 and $1,000. You know, it could be $899, could be $799, but I don't think it's going to be much cheaper than that if it's as powerful as I'm saying it's going to be. I could be completely wrong, and they could be full of crap when they say it's going to be this huge leap, but I'm going to go ahead and hope for the more powerful system here just to see what it can do. And so now that puts them at basically half the price and double the price, right? Like that's a huge disparity in not just performance, but also the price of these systems. But if Microsoft doesn't expect to sell many of these X's anyway, why not try to mark them up and sell them at an even higher cost? Because they know the people like me that really care about graphics will probably pay the extra money for it. And then our last thing to talk about is what games are going to be on this platform, right? Like what's the launch lineup look like? I think there are a number of games that we've had announced to us that we know differing amounts of information of. There are games that we know are in development, but we haven't seen anything about in years. Those games, the ones that we haven't seen anything in a while, are more likely to be potentially exclusives for this new console. I think we will see a large cross-gen period just like we did with the current generation, but I'm hopeful it's going to be around 2 years instead of the 3 years it's felt like it's taken us to kind of get past that. Like we're kind of just now getting past cross-gen in the current generation. Here we are talking about the next one, which is kind of crazy. But when they release these things, not a lot of people have them. The games they want to make money on, so they need a large base to sell to, so they kind of have to put them out for the old system at this point. It's kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you put it out just for the new system, ironically. Like Sony made a choice with Ratchet & Clank only for the PS5. They could have sold probably way more copies of that if they put it out for the PS4, but they didn't. And I'm hoping Microsoft at least saves a couple games to be exclusive for the new system and doesn't do 100% cross-gen this time. But so games like Perfect Dark, we don't have an exact release date for that, I'm pretty sure. So that one, probably cross-gen, but it will almost definitely get a version that is built and enhanced to take advantage of this new system. Maybe it's even path traced. Probably runs at 30 frames a second when it's path traced, but still, it's going to be a really interesting time as we see these games on these very different systems, because what you're going to be able to do on the Series S and this new mobile system versus what you can do on the current X and the next X is going to be just this huge difference, really, in terms of the quality. Like, the games will be the same. And if you don't care about graphics, you might be like, I don't even see the difference in these two. But if you know how to look, there's going to be a massive difference between these two systems if my predictions are right. Oh, and one last thought. I forgot to mention controllers. I think Microsoft hasn't really been doing a lot of innovation in the controller space lately. The Series controller and the last generation, the Xbox One controller, they look really, really similar. They function really similar. They feel really similar. They're like 98, maybe even 99% the exact same controller, in my opinion. They didn't really do much. But they did put out surveys a while back asking how people felt about the new features that Sony has with the enhanced haptics and the analog triggers with the force feedback. That might come to the next system. So we might get like hopefully we at least get enhanced rumble. Even Nintendo has that at this point. But we maybe even get the cool trigger thing that sometimes works and sometimes it just feels like it was kind of stuffed in and maybe they shouldn't have done it. But when they do it right, it feels really cool. And so we're talking about the future, 2 years out from now. A lot of stuff could change. A lot of this could be completely wrong. You know, I'm going off of rumors. A lot of this I'm just making up for you right now. We're going to see how close I got in a couple years, I guess. But yeah, take a giant grain of salt with everything you heard today. Obviously, nothing's official here. But the next couple years are going to be pretty interesting for Microsoft, I think. People like to joke that they're going to leave the console market, but I don't think they're ready to give it up quite yet. I think we're going to see Microsoft come back and try their hardest they've ever tried before with this next generation. I think people are going to be surprised, especially if they have a system as powerful as I'm thinking. Or the handheld too. Both are kind of mind-blowing ideas on their own. And if they do both of these things, they're going to make a huge difference in their sales versus what they've been doing lately. And I can't wait to see what games look like on this new hardware. All right, well, things have been really interesting for Xbox lately. Sales are not looking great. All the rumors are very negative. I think they can still turn things around on this, and I think they've done that with the showcase about a month or two ago. They had a lot of great games. They got a lot of good stuff coming out. They've bought Activision, so they've got all the games that they had under works coming out for them. The next system is really interesting to me because I haven't owned an Xbox in a while. I bought the very first Xbox back in 2001, the day it came out. And I had the 360. But then they kind of lost me with the Xbox One, and I've still yet to pick up a Series X. Still waiting on those exclusives. But I would love to own an Xbox again. Maybe I'll pick up an X some point here, or maybe I'll just wait out and see what the system in 2026 looks like. I hope they've got something awesome, and they can bring me and other gamers back in because we need competition in the gaming market. We don't need to have just Sony and Nintendo. There has to be more than just those two to choose from. Now, maybe it's Steam one day, and maybe Microsoft doesn't exist. Maybe they go completely the route of Sega and just make games. But I think they're going to be around for another generation or two before they call it quits. And I'm hoping to see some really cool stuff before that day comes. If it comes. It's so easy to be negative about the future of Xbox right now. So I'm trying to be positive. I think there's going to be some really cool systems. I think the handheld's going to be cool. I'm not really a handheld guy, but I know people love it. So I think if you love handhelds, it's going to be great. Another handheld to choose from. And they'll certainly have a few games on there that you won't be able to get for the Nintendo system if that's what you're looking at. But alright, I've rambled enough. Please, if you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, you know, all that YouTube stuff. There's a little button down here. Just click where it says position offset, and I think I'm pointing to the right side. But yeah, just click that little button or click down below. There's a subscribe button. You know how it works. But yes, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.